Hello, everyone. This is Dr. Zita Suissa, President of Residence Executive and Team Coaching. And today is our third episode of Bite-Sized Learning. Today, we're going to talk about workplace frustration and anger management. Over the course of the day, very often you and I can feel frustrated. Frustration is a moment where we can reflect and think about what is causing the frustration. Frustration could go in many directions. For example, anger. But anger is a problem because you can spew out many things with anger. Many times we will regret. As usual, I'm going to pull up some slides and it'll give you the opportunity to look at the slides if you want, come back again. Today I'm going to start with a theory. The theory is dated, but for me, it still holds very true to this day. So why do we become so frustrated and so angry? This frustration-aggression hypothesis has several components. First of all, frustration-aggression hypothesis was formulated by Dollard, Miller, Doob, Maurer, and Sears. And yes, it's in 1939. It has been critiqued. It has been brought back many times. This comes from a book, a psychology book by Byers in 2002. And again, it's the same theory. And I'd like to present a theory to you. First of all, frustration is anything that blocks our attaining a goal. Frustration grows when our motivation to achieve a goal is extremely strong, when we expect gratification, and when it's blocked completely, we feel very frustrated. The frustration can be dissipated through withdrawal from the situation, by turning it inward or turning it outwards at the the person, the place, thing, whatever that's frustrating you, or it could be displaced onto another source, and we'll go into that in a minute. An example could be frustration. First component, frustration. What do you mean I was speeding? Police officer stops you, could happen, and asks you for your papers and asks you why you're speeding, and you're very frustrated at that moment. What do you mean I was speeding? It turns into anger. Do you really think I will pay that $300 ticket that you've just given me? And then it could turn towards aggression. Well, think again. There is absolutely no way I will pay the ticket. That aggression could be externalized onto the officer, displaced onto get back home. And the expression is kick the dog or yell at the wife or yell at the children, or it could be internalized. I was wrong, but you're not willing to say that. I was wrong. I should have not been speeding. It is not safe. I should not be doing that. So frustration could lead to anger. Anger could lead to aggression. Aggression could be internalized, externalized, or displaced onto something else. I was thinking, what example could I give you of a time when a person, others, could be frustrated? And what I came up with are complaints. When you feel frustrated, what do we often do? We complain. We hold grudges. We're critical. But there's a problem with complaints. And I think this is a real learning experience for me as well as for you. Complaining damages the brain. Studies that have been done, one example through Stanford University, shows that complaining shrinks the hippocampus, the area of the brain responsible for problem solving, logical thinking, cognitive functions. It also releases the stress hormone cortisol, which impairs our immune system, our blood pressure, cholesterol, diabetes, heart disease, stroke, even Alzheimer's. Complaints, we do complain. So complaints have a purpose. But how do we do this? So first, we have to start with a positive statement. By the way, we do share, you're talking to somebody else, we do share a common goal. So therefore, let's try to work together. You deliver the complaint, which you're not satisfied about. You end it with a positive statement. I very much appreciate that you and I have come to some understanding. And then people let it go, because it turns into grudges and it breaks up families and relationships and problems at the workplace and problems at home and problems with friends, etc. Take stock of why you are frustrated. And there's three areas that frustrate people? First of all, environmental forces, things often beyond our control, like policies, regulations, culture, climate, limited resources at work. Secondly, personal inadequacy, not having enough education, being frustrated because you know you need to take some more courses because that's what's required in the workplace. You need more training. You'd like to have more skills. And the other way to look at inadequacy, I have self-doubt. You're not willing to say that, but I'm doubtful of how I can do this job. For example, what if I start, but I'm unable to? That's something that we would say. Well, what if I fail? Is it worth my even trying? So that sense of personal inadequacy. The third one is conflict-produced frustration, one motive that interferes with the expression of another. For example, I better stay in the job that I really don't like, or I'll quit and I'm unemployed. You have that incongruence between where I am and where I want to be, and that's causing tremendous frustration. So 3 ways we can be frustrated: through environmental forces, personal inadequacy, and conflict-produced frustration. The sequence, I'd like to give you a sequence of what's uncontrolled anger. First of all, a trigger with an example. You've been passed over for promotion at work. That is your trigger. The thoughts you have, I evaluate what other people are doing to me, their behavior, they're unfair, they're being unjust. From that, there's a feeling. Notice that the feeling will go back to the thinking. So we respond emotionally to our own thoughts, not to their thoughts, our thoughts. That makes me very sad. It is unfair. We're envious of somebody having that opportunity for a promotion. With behaviors, now you act on the feelings. There's withdrawal, or you fight back. It's not fair, or you think to yourself, maybe I didn't do enough to have that promotion. You adopt a non-defensive attitude. You ask for feedback from the employer. Now, these are more conducive to reactions, to behaviors. And you listen to feedback that's creating more of a plan, or you ask for feedback that would create more of a plan for future promotions. So there's adopting a non-defensive attitude, asking for feedback from the employer, and listening to feedback or asking for feedback that would offer you that opportunity for a future promotion. The consequence is you are making plans for the future. So therefore, the anger now has dissipated somewhat. The pattern of anger, and here I'm going to ask you to do something. Take a piece of paper, and every time we do an episode, I try to give you questions. So answer these questions. Think of a situation that made you angry. Could have been yesterday, could have been last week. Answer these questions. Were you angry or feeling stressed prior to the trigger? Was it the trigger or something that happened prior to that trigger? What were your trigger thoughts at that moment when you were being triggered? What were your triggered behaviors? Was there resolution when you discharged that trigger, those thoughts you had about the trigger, with anger? And in hindsight, were there any options? So once again, were you angry or feeling stressed prior to the trigger? What were your trigger thoughts? What were your trigger behaviors? Was there resolution by discharging anger at someone else? And in hindsight, are there any other options? To end it off, to summarize, being angry is a choice. It is not unconscious. It involves thoughts, feelings, behaviors. It is a habit. We very easily can become frustrated and then angry by conditioning. So we'd have to look back because there's many theories, and I will get into this later on. We talk about stress. Strategy used to cope with stress. So there are strategies that we can use with stress that will help us to dissipate anger. To end it off, you are in control. You choose your emotions. You choose your reactions. You can only change someone else. You can only change yourself. That was a slip. You can only change yourself. You can't change somebody else. Frustration, to bring this all to the end, to the summary, frustration is a gap between my expectations and reality. And I gave you an example before about that. You focus on an outcome, not on obstacles. Frustration can be positive because it gives you time to reflect, as I said, and it is an essential part of success. Anger, like I said, is a choice. 2 quotes. Anger is an acid that can do more harm to the vessel in which it is stored than to anything on which it is poured. Mark Twain. For every minute you remain angry, you give up 60 seconds of peace of mind. Have a good week. I will get back next time. The next discussion will be on self-awareness, the genesis of success. Take care. This is Dr. Zena Suissa, President of Residence, Executive and Team Coaching. Thank you.